Atlanta 911 operator 6074.
I need somebody at Lake Haven Way right now.
What's going on?
Tiffany! Tiffany! Oh my God. Please, I think my wife was murdered.
Oh my God. So ADC called me. Somebody broke into my house. Okay. Oh my God. Please, God, please, not this, not today. Not today, man.
On this episode of Black Girl Gone, I tell the story of Tiffany Jackson Pugh, who was 30 years old when she was shot to death inside her home in East Point, Georgia, on November 23rd, 2014. At the time, Tiffany was a married mother of 2 children. But on November 23rd, police were called to her home by her husband after being notified of a break-in. Inside the house, in a downstairs bedroom, they found Tiffany's lifeless body. Her 2-year-old son was sitting on top of her, crying. In the beginning, investigators had a hard time trying to determine who or why someone would want Tiffany dead. And as they began their investigation, they discovered that the people responsible for this murder were closer than anyone knew. This is Tiffany's story. From the outside looking in, Tiffany Jackson Pugh appeared to be living the dream. She was married with 2 children, a successful career, and a beautiful home in the suburbs. To the casual observer, Tiffany's life was the epitome of perfection, but beneath the surface, a sinister undercurrent of secrets, lies, and deceit had begun to unravel everything she held dear. By 2014, the facade of her idyllic existence had begun to crumble, leading to a chilling climax that no one saw coming. And by year's end, Tiffany's seemingly perfect world would be shattered, culminating in a betrayal so profound it would end in her tragic and untimely death. Tiffany was born on September 9th, 1984. Her parents were Tommy and Patricia Jackson, and together they had 2 children, Tiffany and her brother Brandon. As a child, her father Tommy said that Tiffany early on learned how to be independent. This keen ability served her well throughout her life. In school, Tiffany's diligence and dedication led her to excel academically, setting a foundation for her future successes. After she graduated from high school, she attended Clark Atlanta University, where she majored in logistics, materials, and supply chain management. People who knew Tiffany described her as the life of the party also, and although she took school seriously, she also loved to have a good time. Her friends said that she loved to go out, and anywhere there was music and dancing, Tiffany was going to have fun. It was her spirit and genuine joy for life that drew people to her. When you were down, she was the friend that would cheer you up. During her senior year at Clark Atlanta University, Tiffany began working for Delta Airlines and quickly became a standout. Even before graduating, it was clear to those around her that Tiffany was well on her way. While in college, she would also meet the man that she would eventually marry, Andre Pugh. Andre was a DJ who went by DJ Awesome in the local clubs and party scene, and he also worked for Delta. Friends of Tiffany's said that their impression of Andre was that he was a nice guy with a good personality, and so they weren't surprised that the couple clicked. After graduating from college in 2006, Tiffany continued to work for Delta, and she was quickly moving up in the ranks. Her coworkers described her as a go-getter, and everyone knew that she was going places. In both her career and her love life, it seemed like Tiffany had everything going for her. After 4 years of dating, Tiffany became pregnant with her and Andre's first child, Jasmine. Her friends and family said that Tiffany was ecstatic when she found out that she was going to be a mom, and once their daughter was born, Tiffany became super mom, and she loved every moment of it. After their daughter was born, Tiffany and Andre decided to get married, and so on Valentine's Day 2009, the couple tied the knot. Their daughter Jasmine was their flower girl, and a few years later, they had their second child, a boy named Andre Jr. The family purchased a home in East Point, Georgia, a suburb south of Atlanta, and settled into what appeared to be a very happy life. In 2013, Tiffany was promoted at work to supply chain management commodity manager after spending 3 years as a supply chain management pricing analyst. But as Tiffany continued to excel at work, her marriage to Andre had begun falling apart. Now, when Tiffany and Andre met, he had been moonlighting as a DJ at night while working days for Delta, which he continued after the couple got married. Known by DJ Awesome, Andre DJ'd mostly at college parties and some local dance clubs, but in Atlanta, strip clubs are where the real money is made, and so prior to the birth of their son, Andre was eager to land a job DJing at one of the major strip clubs in the city. Being able to DJ a club like that would be a game changer for Andre, who wanted to be able to DJ full time. And in the beginning, Tiffany supported his ambition. When Andre landed a job at Club Onyx, a popular strip club in Atlanta, Tiffany was all for it. She supported her husband's dream. Her dad said that when Andre first began DJing at the strip club, Tiffany would even go with him sometimes and sit in the booth. Now, while most wives would be leery of their husbands working in a strip club until the wee hours of the morning, Tiffany embraced her husband's job and did her best to support him and his dream. But unfortunately for Tiffany, Andre began taking advantage of her trust. And not long after he began DJing at the club, rumors began to circulate that Andre was sleeping with multiple women that he met there. People who knew Andre said that he began trying to become what he thought a successful DJ was, and that included having multiple women, despite the fact that he was a married father. Eventually, Tiffany found out about the affairs, and she left Andre. The couple separated for a year, and Tiffany got her own place. But after a while, her friends said that she missed the stability of her marriage, of having two parents in the home, and so the couple decided to give their marriage another shot. They moved into a new home and they tried to start over. Tiffany became pregnant with Andre Jr., and the couple tried to move on. But the issues in their marriage lingered, and despite their attempt at a fresh start, Andre's betrayal had permanently damaged their relationship, and Andre was still DJing at the same club where he had been having the affairs. By 2014, Tiffany had been struggling to stay invested in her marriage to Andre. Forgiving your husband for having multiple affairs would be a tall task for most wives, but when tragedy unexpectedly hit Tiffany's family, she realized that she no longer wanted to be married to Andre. In July 2014, Tiffany's mother, Patricia, became ill with a severe case of pneumonia and was hospitalized. When her dad called her to let her know, Patricia was fighting for her life. Tiffany immediately flew to Arizona, where her mother was, to be by her side, but sadly, a few days later, Patricia passed away. The sudden loss of her mother was devastating for Tiffany, and the people who loved her did their best to be there for her while she mourned. Andre, however, according to Tiffany's family and friends, was distant when his wife needed him the most. After everything she had been through with Andre, it would seem like the least he could do was support her in that moment, but he didn't. He did come out for the funeral, but left immediately after to go DJ at the club. Andre's behavior after Tiffany's mother died changed the way she felt about her marriage. She no longer wanted to be with Andre, and she began making plans to leave him, this time for good. She began confiding in those closest to her that she was planning to divorce Andre. Her father said that when she told Andre she wanted a divorce, she said that he took it well. It seemed like they had both come to the same conclusion about their marriage and that things may end amicably. But neither Tiffany nor the people closest to her had any idea of the nightmare that was about to unfold. In November 2014, Tiffany and Andre's marriage, for the most part, was over. However, the couple continued to live together in their East Point, Georgia home as they worked through the details of their pending divorce. Andre was still working at Club Onyx as a DJ, leaving Tiffany home alone at night with their 2 children. On November 23rd, 2014, Andre was at Club Onyx where he had been working that night. And according to him, he left work at around 5:15 in the morning to head home. At around 6:05 that morning, Andre called his boss Cliff, who he had developed a friendship with, to let him know that he had gotten a call from the alarm company for his house, indicating that someone had broken into the home. He said he wasn't sure what was going on, but he asked Cliff to meet him there. When Cliff arrived at Tiffany and Andre's house, he found Andre outside, and according to court records, Andre told Cliff that he had not gone inside the house yet, but he thought that someone might have broken in through a downstairs window. At around 6:15 in the morning, Andre called 911, and as indicated in the court records, he told the operator that someone had broken into his house and that his wife, Tiffany, had been murdered. However, he claimed that he still had not been inside the home at that point, despite the fact that he knew his 2 children were inside. When police arrived at the scene, they found Andre outside, and according to responding officers, Andre was waving his arms and yelling that his kids were inside and that Tiffany was not answering the phone. When police entered the home, they made their way to a first-floor bedroom, and inside, they found Tiffany lying in a bed. She was bleeding from a gunshot wound to the eye and chest, and she had no pulse. Their son, 2-year-old Andre Jr., was found sitting on top of his mother's lifeless body, crying. Their daughter Jasmine was upstairs, asleep. Neither child had been harmed, but Tiffany was dead. After locating Tiffany's body and removing the children from the house, police began sweeping the home to see if they could locate anything significant. They noticed that the basement door and screen door were both unlocked, and they noticed that the basement window had the screen cut out. They also saw that a back gate was unlocked, but nothing else stood out to the officers during their initial sweep of the house, and nothing appeared to be missing either. Once detectives arrived to begin processing the scene, they quickly ruled out that this was a home invasion because nothing was missing. Whoever had broken into the home had gone straight to where Tiffany was sleeping and killed her. Investigators found a bullet in the headboard above where she had been sleeping, indicating that there had been 3 shots fired, 2 of them striking and killing Tiffany. However, there were no shell casings at the scene. But whoever had done this broke into that house with one intention, and that was to kill Tiffany. And now police needed to find out who and why. Within hours of Tiffany being found, information spread to the rest of her family and friends, and everyone was in shock. Never in a million years could they imagine that they would be getting a call that their Tiffany was dead. And not just dead, brutally murdered while she slept in her own bed. And when they learned that Andre Jr. had been found on top of her, it was almost too much for them to handle. With robbery pretty much ruled out, detectives had to determine a motive for this murder. And as they delve into their investigation, they begin to unravel a tangled web of lies and betrayal. On November 23rd, 2014, 30-year-old Tiffany Jackson Pugh was found shot to death inside her home in East Point, Georgia. Her 2-year-old son was found on her chest. As the investigation into her murder began, disturbing truths would be unveiled. After Tiffany's body was found, with very little physical evidence, detectives working the case began questioning family and friends to try and determine who may have wanted Tiffany dead. In the hours after the murder, Andre, Tiffany's husband, had also been interviewed by police, And at the time, investigators did not suspect that Andre was involved, but they needed to bring him in and get a statement about what happened and what he knew. The interview took place at the police station and was video recorded. Andre told detectives that he left work at 5:15 a.m. He said that between 5:30 and 5:50, while driving home, he had a missed call from ADT. He said he called them back and asked them to shut the alarm off so that the kids were not disturbed. Now, in his call to 911, Andre said that he had not gone in the house, but in his statement to police, he said that when he arrived at the home, he did go inside and found that the alarm was still armed. He said he went to Tiffany's room and turned on the light, and when he did, he saw a body. He said he didn't notice any blood and that Tiffany appeared to be sleeping. He claimed he didn't try to wake her up because he was quote unquote scared. Now, he said that he went downstairs and that's when he noticed the broken glass. Andre said that he told the responding officer when they arrived that he couldn't find his son when he went inside and that his wife was not moving. When detectives asked him why he left his children in the house when he thought someone had broken into his home, he said that he did not want to wake his older child, Jasmine, and that he could not find his son. And during his interview, detectives said that Andre appeared to be distraught. He referred to Tiffany as his heart and made no mention of their marital problems or pending divorce. As part of their interview, they asked Andre if they could review his cell phone and test for gunshot residue, which came back negative. Detectives also spoke to Cliff, Andre's boss, who confirmed his alibi. Andre had been at work that morning and that he had called him shortly after 6 a.m. to tell him that someone had broken into his home. When detectives asked him why Andre would call him first, he said that he and Andre had been friends for a long time, but he also said he had no idea what happened to Tiffany. At that point, detectives did not have a reason to suspect Andre. He had an alibi for the time of the murder, and although nothing had been taken, detectives did begin to explore the possibility that maybe this was a home invasion gone wrong. Inside the Pugh home, they had surveillance cameras, and so investigators turned to the footage to see if they could capture images of the killer unwittingly walking past the cameras. But surprisingly, the internal cameras had captured no images of a suspect. Investigators also obtained footage from outside the house from a neighbor's surveillance cameras. The footage from the neighbor had not captured images of their killer either, but after reviewing the footage, detectives did notice something suspicious that immediately caught their attention. Now, the medical examiner at that point had determined that Tiffany had been killed at approximately 5:58 a.m., just minutes before her husband Andre said he arrived home. The footage from the neighbor's camera showed two cars on the street near where Tiffany and Andre lived. One of the cars had a headlight that was out. The car with the headlight out first passed the neighbor's home at 4:50 a.m., and then that same vehicle pulled into the cul-de-sac that was nearby their home about 10 minutes before the murder, where it remained parked for several minutes. At 5:57 a.m., the vehicle's headlights flashed, and the second vehicle pulled alongside it. At 5:58 a.m., the vehicle with the non-working headlight moved forward and stopped in front of Tiffany and Andre's house for 2 or 3 minutes. The other vehicle drove away. And then shortly after that, the light came on in the rear of Tiffany and Andre's house. And once investigators saw the footage, they began to suspect that there were multiple people involved in Tiffany's murder. And although the camera footage did not reveal much at that point, detectives believed that the killer or killers were in one of those cars. But as the investigation continued, family and friends began to reveal the truth about what was happening in Tiffany and Andre's marriage. And during his initial interview, Andre made it seem like everything between him and Tiffany was fine. But The people close to Tiffany revealed that the couple had been having issues in their marriage and that in September 2014, Tiffany had spoke with a lawyer about filing for divorce. Now, during their initial interview with Andre, he insisted that he only had one cell phone. But the day after Tiffany's murder, police discovered that he actually had two cell phones. And so detectives obtained search warrants for both phones. After reviewing the information from the phone, they discovered text messages between the couple that revealed the details of their crumbling marriage. Tiffany was planning to move out, and despite initially appearing to be okay with the divorce, Andre had changed his mind and he did not want Tiffany to leave him. He confided in his boss, Cliff, that he was angry that Tiffany was trying to divorce him. But while he was texting Tiffany in an attempt to get her to not leave him, his phone also revealed that he was texting sexually explicit messages and pictures to multiple other women and telling them that he cheated on Tiffany every time she went out of town. 5 days before the murder, Andre texts Tiffany, quote, "I won't let you leave me now or ever." Tiffany responded that she took the statement, quote unquote, as a threat. After looking through Andre's phone, investigators began to turn their attention towards him. The fact that he had lied about the status of his relationship with Tiffany and having a second phone made investigators suspicious that Andre was not telling them everything. Now, while obtaining a warrant for Andre's phone, investigators also obtained a tower dump for the cell phone tower located near Tiffany and Andre's house. They wanted the number for every phone that used that tower around the time of the murder. And after getting the list of numbers, detectives then cross-referenced them with contacts in Andre's phone. And one of the numbers that used the tower that night of the murder belonged to Adrian Hartley, Andre's best friend. Now, Andre and Adrian had been friends for years. They had been the best man at he and Tiffany's wedding and was godfather to their children. He was someone that Tiffany's family knew well. Adrian would come over for holidays and family gatherings. And at Tiffany's funeral, Adrian had served as a pallbearer. Now, although seemingly out of place, Adrian would also hang out with Andre at the strip club and became his quote-unquote money man. He would collect money from rappers who wanted Andre to play their music at the club. By all accounts, Adrian was Andre's right-hand man. And so when Adrian's phone number popped up on that tower, investigators wanted to know why. Detectives did a background search on Adrian and discovered that he did not own a black car, but his girlfriend did. And so investigators obtained a search warrant and drove to Alpharetta, Georgia, where Adrian lived, to speak to him directly. And once investigators arrived at Adrian's house, it was clear that he was not going to be very cooperative. But detectives continued questioning him anyway. And when they asked Adrian about his whereabouts the night Tiffany was killed, he claimed that he had been at Club Onyx where Andre DJ'd, and that after that, he left and went to several other clubs, all on the north side of Atlanta. But detectives knew he was lying because the cell phone tower placed him near Tiffany and Andre's house. So while detectives were speaking to Andre, his girlfriend pulled up in her black Acura. She gave detectives permission to then search her home, which ultimately turned up nothing suspicious. But after that, they did get a chance to take a closer look at the vehicle that she was driving and discovered that the headlight was broken, just like the black car seen on surveillance the night of the murder. Between the tower dump, the surveillance footage, and the car, police were now sure that they had found their killer. But why would Adrian kill Tiffany? Well, detectives had also discovered that not only had Adrian's cell phone used the tower that night before the murder, so had Andre's. And so they suspected that Andre had hired his best friend Adrian to kill his wife. After police spoke to Adrian, he went to Club Onyx, and witnesses said that he and Andre were whispering about something, and then Andre began throwing up in a trash can. The walls were closing in, and investigators believed that they had enough evidence to arrest both Andre and Adrian for Tiffany's murder. On December 5th, 2014, both Andre Pugh and Adrian Harley were arrested at Club Onyx. When Andre was brought in, he claimed that Adrian had acted alone. He said that just hours before they were arrested, Adrian confessed to him that he had killed Tiffany. Andre said that Adrian was angry with Tiffany for accusing him of stealing money from her, and he told Andre that he got upset and killed her. Detectives did not believe Andre, but he claimed he had no reason to kill his wife and that he was going to get the house and child support. He claimed he wouldn't have benefited from Tiffany being dead. But detectives had learned that Andre was going to be unable to keep the house after the divorce because it was in Tiffany's name, and because he had no credit, the bank would not transfer it to him. He had also been trying to secure Social Security benefits immediately following her murder, and before her funeral, he asked a coworker of hers about accessing employee benefits. Investigators believe that Andre had killed his wife when he realized that he would no longer be able to maintain his lifestyle. Investigators had also learned that records from ADT showed that they called Andre at 5:58 a.m. and that Andre returned the call at 6:03 a.m., contradicting his claim that the call from ADT came between 5:30 and 5:50. And surveillance footage showed that after parking and getting out of his car in front of his home, Andre did not enter the home and instead waited for the police outside, despite his detailed statement to police saying that he had gone inside. After their arrests, both men were charged with Tiffany's murder. And in September 2018, nearly 4 years after her brutal murder, Andre Pugh went on trial for his wife's murder. And in October 2018, he was convicted and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. His best friend Adrian's trial was delayed for nearly 8 years for reasons that I'm unsure of, but in October 2022, Adrian Harley was also convicted of Tiffany's murder and received a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Tiffany was murdered nearly 10 years ago, but the senselessness and the brutality of her murder will forever haunt those who knew her and loved her. It's hard to understand how a husband and a father could destroy his family in this way. His children lost both of their parents in one brutal, selfish act. And although the people responsible for her murder will spend the rest of their lives in prison, it will never make up for what they stole from Tiffany, her children, and everyone who loved her. May Tiffany Jackson Pugh rest in peace. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Threads.